Welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'm going to show you what I believe to be the simplest agent that you can deploy on N8N. I actually got the idea to make this video from some of the comments that I've received from clients that I've deployed this to. So I thought, well, because it's become so simple, let me at least share that so that you can go ahead and recreate it. So if you are starting your own agency, you can focus on the sales and marketing aspects of your business instead of the technology one. So just for a bit of context, here's what the voice agent, or here's what the agent does. I've got a generic name here, and then I say, I want to work with you guys. And I'm just using N8N Chat UI. I'll show you how to set everything up. So this is a roofing company. Actually, I think it's a plumbing company. I just called it something about roofing. Sure. So name, email, 123 Main Street is the address. And phone number is 554-432. Let's see what happens. I'll tell it I want a new one. Now, what's cool about this is the second that all this messaging goes through is I should receive an email telling me, which I just got right here. So it says, you have a new lead. Here's their information. Here's a transcript. And I can go ahead and call them right there, which is kind of cool. And that was deployed in less than 10 minutes. So let's actually look at how to build this. There's gonna be a couple different pieces that we're gonna need to actually get this thing to work. And I'm gonna take an example company and I'm essentially gonna rebuild the entire thing from scratch. So just so you understand what's happening, we have essentially three components in any agent. So we have personality instructions, which essentially is just who is this agent? What is its name? What are its goals? Things like that. Then you have knowledge, which is what does it know about your company, about the world, or just in general, what specific data does it have about what you do? And lastly, you have actions and or usually called tools, which is what can it do in the real world? What are its hands capable of? So I'm gonna go through these one by one, and they're actually pretty straightforward. On the personality instructions side of things, we actually have a prompt generator that I'm gonna share with you along with this video, which essentially just allows you, just put this prompt into ChatGPT, it'll ask you a few questions and it'll make a prompt for you. But it'll ask you for your name or for the name of the agent, it'll ask you for the name of the business, the contact info, information of the business. Cool. It will also ask you if you wanna create tools, because there are two tools that are available with this agent. Let's go over them really quickly. So the two main tools I've made available, and I can jump to N8N to show you. This is the actual agent itself. The two main tools that you'll see are submit inquiry, the knowledge base. Knowledge base essentially is a request to the knowledge base that I'm going to show you how to set up here in a sec. And then submit inquiry is a catch-all word for new leads, tickets, anything that requires further help from the company itself. I sort of bundled it up into submit inquiry. So that email that I got after I said I want a new roof, that was actually triggered by that tool. So as you can see here, like this is the entire agent, by the way. That's all there is to this thing. It's super simple. Going back to my Miro, we've gone over the actions you can use because I've already said we have knowledge base component and we have submit inquiry. Now the other piece of it is the knowledge component. Now for a company this small, honestly, you probably could get away with just putting it within the prompt itself. And I made a previous video talking about sort of the difference between prompting an agent, giving it a RAG knowledge base, or fine-tuning the model. But generally, you're not really looking at fine-tuning, which really leaves you with, do you want to prompt the agent? Essentially mean put the knowledge base within the instructions, or do you want to provide it a dedicated tool using RAG to essentially retrieve information based on the question? Both work. The only difference between those two is just how much knowledge do you have and how important is it for you to get this knowledge right. So if I have a text that's 100 pages long, I would never put that in the prompt. I would 1000% put that as some sort of RAG system. But if it's a few sentences of just super hyper specific data points, then there's no point in installing the knowledge base. It'll just increase your latency for not much benefit. So it's on a case by case basis. Thankfully, the knowledge base component in this agent is actually pretty simple. So check this out. We're gonna use Gemini's file search API. And the reason we're gonna use this specific knowledge base component or this specific knowledge base tool is because it's super simple to set up. I've already made a previous video talking about how to set it up, but let me just show you how to do it again because it is that simple. And you can also compare this in case you're wondering what this replaces. If you used Pinecone, if you used Supabase vector stores, this replaces that. It's cheaper, I think it's better, and you also don't get charged for storage. So right now, because it's new, I don't know how long this is gonna stay, but you only get charged when you upload documents. Pinecone, for example, and I'm not talking down Pinecone, I love those guys. I'm simply stating the differences between the two. Will charge you for just hosting documents on their platform, which if you have a lot of agents, a lot of documents, it can get pretty expensive. So let's look at how to actually set up this Gemini file search. Actually, let me talk a bit of context as well. So whenever we send a message to this agent, it'll come in through this webhook. We then have an AI agent node, and this node is connected to 4 other nodes. First one being the OpenAI chat model. This is simply the instructions that we've given our robot. If you remember Miro, this would be the N8N automation. This part of personality and instructions is this component right here. Then we have simple memory. This is just so that your agent actually knows what you're talking about, because otherwise it'll forget every comment that you've ever made. And I think in here, all I give it was a 5, which means it has a context window of 5 previous messages. Submit inquiry. The tool description here is whenever you are ready to send the details to the business, call the submit inquiry tool once per conversation, but only after you have. And then I've got a few data points here. So for example, name, email, phone number, a clear summary of what they want. If the intent is already clear from the context, write the summary yourself. Meaning you don't need to get the summary or the issue from the user if you already can infer it from the conversation you had. You may ask for clarification, and then there's essentially 2 types of inquiries. There's leads, which are people who are new customers, or there's support, which is they're an existing customer, they just need help with something. And I give a couple of different examples, and I'll make this whole automation available, so feel free to just download that and start from there. And then we have this tool, we are sending a few different parameters. First one being name, email, phone number, issue, transcript, and type. So one really cool thing about N8N that you can do is you can actually get it to set its own sort of variables when it runs. What I mean by that, well, I use double curly brackets and then from $, from AI. And then I'm gonna put a key here. In this case, I'm gonna put it, this is gonna be called name. N8N is actually smart enough to understand that whenever it's calling this tool, it will automatically set the name. And as long as these titles right here are descriptive, then it'll be able to pick it up. I mean, this is all I did for the automation that I just ran, and it picked up name, email, phone number, appointment, reason, transcript of conversation, lead, or ticket. Essentially just says, is this a lead or is this a ticket? And let's see if it worked. Because I just got an email. The last one, it said, message/issue came in as lead, interested in new roofing. I think that's what it says. Yeah, new roof installation. Kind of cool, right? So that submits a tool call. Now, where does it submit it to? Well, if you just look a little bit higher, you're gonna see there's a webhook portion right here. This just calls this webhook right here. And all this does is this sends an email, and you'll have the HTML access within the N8N automation. And we're just sending this is who we're sending it to, this is the subject itself, and this is the actual HTML itself, which I just got from ChatGPT to make it look pretty. But you'll notice that within these automations, let me look at a previous execution. But check this out, let's look at the last one. I think it would have been this one. Actually, let me show you what happened. So when it got the right information, it got the webhook that came in. This agent then triggered and it made a decision, because you have to look at these tools like a tool belt that it has access to. So it saw that it had all the information necessary to call this tool, which is why it called it. So then it submitted. And you can notice this takes a bit longer than the rest of the automation. This took about almost 5 seconds, while the one above it only took half a second. But if I look at what happened on this automation or this execution, I'll see that all that really happened is this received a webhook from right here, and then it sent a message, and it filled in this information from said message. So this is what came in, and then this is what was meant to be populated, and this is the final version. And you'll see that my name is in here because it populated it before sending it out, which is what at the end gave us this beautiful email that really showcases quality, which I think is super important, because if I would have just sent raw text, technically it could work, but there's just something about having pretty emails land in your inbox from your AI agent that just uplifts the entire experience. And now the only thing that we haven't gone over is the knowledge base and how to actually change the prompt and the interface or how to interact with this. So let's go over that and this is more straightforward. So for the knowledge base component, there's actually an entirely different automation to actually set up the knowledge base. Here's what I mean by that. So for Gemini's file search API, the way that it works is you first have to create a file store. This is essentially your database. Then you have to upload documents to said database. And finally, you can then query that database with those files to then get a response. So I have an entire N8N automation whose sole job is to just create these file stores. And this is what that looks like. This is super straightforward. First thing that happens here, you gotta set an API key for AI Studio. So if you don't have one, just go to AI Studio, get your Gemini API key, and you will find it here. You can just go ahead and create a new one. Once you have your file, and you might have to put a credit card or something, obviously put some limits so that you don't end up running a gigantic bill. But once you have your API key, then you have to give it a store name. This is your friendly name of the database. Let me just call this one, I'm gonna make a new one to show you. Call this UYT Ron. I'm gonna do execute step, and follow along with me if you're doing this as well. Execute step, so that's fine. Now the next piece is we're actually gonna run this create store. This is what actually gets sent over to Google, telling it, hey look, here's my password, here's what I wanna call it, give me a new database. All I have to do is execute step, give it a sec, and you now have a brand new file store. And I know it worked because I have a file store ID right here. This is the important component that we want. Now, all you really need to do is copy this file store ID, stopping at the backslash or / copy that. And we're essentially done with our file store. We've already created it. Now I just need to upload some documents to it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into this, the second sort of, or I guess technically it should be the third, line in N8N. And where it says store name and API key, I'm just gonna change the store ID to the ID that I just copied. Because essentially what I'm telling it here is we're about to upload a bunch of documents, and this is telling Gemini, here's where I want you to actually submit those documents. So make sure that you're changing your store ID when you're uploading new documents. So once I've got that, I can now press execute workflow. This is just a form fill. Let's call this Ron Roofing. And I'm gonna pick just a random file here. Doesn't really matter, press submit. And you saw, because I said it here, it is now automatically, it's essentially executed the whole workflow. And it's gone ahead and actually uploaded the file that I just put in to my store, which is kind of cool. So now let's go back, because we now have a brand new database with a brand new document in it. Now we just have to connect this database to the agent that we just created. So I'm gonna go back to N8N, and now in here, where it says, actually, the last row in the agent database. For context, when you're creating this, you want to have an N8N automation or one of these for every agent that you have, but you don't need to have 100 Gemini file search automations. You can just have one. If I'm setting this up for a new client, I would just create a new file store, upload all my documents, take that ID, and then create a brand new N8N instance or N8N sort of automation for the agent itself. But I only need to have one file search API or file search creation. I hope that makes sense. In other words, if in case it doesn't, you don't need more of one than these, but you want as many of these as you have agents. So if you have 10 agents, you'd have 10 workflows that look like this, but still only one that looks like this. So the last piece, now that we have our store ID, is we have the knowledge base tool right here. So let's look at the description of this tool. This says, call this tool when the user asks a question about the company. All right, pretty straightforward. So then all I do is let me check what knowledge base is it searching, because this is really what's happening. This webhook receives the question that the user provided that was sent from this node. We're then searching the knowledge base that we just created. We're then extracting the answer, and we're just responding to said request with whatever answer we got back. And the only thing that I have to change in every instance of this automation is the store ID in here. If you open this node up, you'll see that we're just using the generate content API call within Gemini's file search. It's a bit of a mouthful, but we have our API key here again. And then lastly, the most important piece is we have to change this ID right here, because this is essentially what is telling N8N, hey, look, go search in that database. So if I were to run this, it'll still search the old database before, like the one I was showing you earlier. So just paste that in there and then press save. And you've now changed the database that your agent is connected to. Kind of cool, right? So now your agent is essentially full. Like, if you were saying this for a client, the only thing you would change is the email address that this is going to, but that's about it. And the only piece that's really left is, well, let's give it a prompt, so at least you know what this thing is meant to do. In this case, I'm using 4.1 mini as the OpenAI model that I'm using. And my prompt is the following. It says user messages, the last user message start, and then chat input. This is essentially what we're receiving from N8N chat UI, which I'm going to show you here in a sec. I'm also telling it, if necessary, use KB tool. Because I'm using a cheaper model, when I didn't have this, sometimes it wouldn't check the knowledge base, which was frustrating. So I've just hard coded, if necessary, use knowledge base tool. And that seems to have fixed that problem. And then the system message is actually pretty straightforward. All it really says is you are the helpful assistant for John's Roofing. You help customers with roofing related questions and next steps. Do not mention you are AI unless directly asked. There's a couple different rules in here using sort of the CARES protocol, like context, action, rules, execution, and safety, or safeguards. But my whole point is I've just given it a bit of context, and once again, you'll have this in the description. And the important thing here are it knows that it has two tools, a knowledge base tool and a submit inquiry tool, which essentially just gives it more context as to when to use every tool. So if you want to add more tools, make sure that not only you press this plus button and add whatever tool you want, but also make sure that your agent is aware of said tool, and you make it aware of said tool by actually including it within your prompt. Give it example use cases, when to use it, when not to use it, and that'll make your agent much more stable. Actually, one more thing I've got, if you're struggling with creating the prompt itself, I've created a free resource, which essentially is a prompt wizard that you can put into ChatGPT and it'll ask you a bunch of questions. Let me show you. So check this out. And once you download the resources, you can just go ahead and paste the prompt wizard. I'm not gonna go through the entire thing because it can be a little time consuming, but all you have to paste the entire prompt in here, and then it's gonna help you essentially create that prompt that you can just paste into your N8N module. So in this case, I gave my whole prompt. It said, what's the agent's name? I'm gonna call it Eve. The name's gonna be ABC Plumbing. And as I'm going through all these different questions, you will essentially get a result at the end, which says, here's the prompt that you should use. You can go ahead and copy that and just be respectful of your time. I'm not gonna go through the entire thing, but like I said, the prompt will be in the description. But then go ahead and take that prompt that you received, put it in right here. And now, finally, The only thing you have to do is just, we need to give this a front end. Like, this is great and all, but nobody's gonna use this within N8N. I have a solution for you. This is probably by far the simplest way that I've found to do this. There's a tool called N8N Chat UI. Now, a good friend of mine told me about this a while back, and I've been using it relatively recently to just be able to deploy agents super simply. So just go to n8nchatui.com. You're gonna see a screen that looks like this. All you have to do when you sign up for an account, you might have to put a credit card in as well. Just go to click on Add Widget. Name this, I don't know, YouTube test if you want. Press on Managed Widget, Create, and now you're gonna have something that looks like this. To connect your N8N workflow to this specific widget, widget is just a little thing that pops up as like a chatbot, you can press on Embed, and then say Connect your N8N webhook. Press on that, go back to N8N, and you wanna make sure that this is active, by the way. Click on the main webhook of the AI agent, production URL, copy it, go back in N8N Chat UI, paste it, test connection, and that's it. Now, check this out. And before I'm even gonna go into executions in N8N, just to see if it actually triggers. So I'm gonna press, who is this? And if I click here, you'll see it now ran. So this one was actually checking. Let's see what happened. So you saw this, I asked who is this, it actually triggered the knowledge base tool to see who is it. So let's see what this came back. This is John's Roofing, a roofing service provider in Houston. How can I assist you today? Cool. So then I can ask it, I want to work with you. And you can sort of see the automations go by. And obviously I got a response here. Could you please share a bit more about what you need? Okay, cool. Let me just fill this in again. Need a new roof with Taha. Let's go ahead and fill this out. Number is 444-11. And if you, by the way, you might run across this issue where it says 50 characters is the limit. Here's how to fix that really quickly. Go to Customize, go to Window, and then where it says Text Input Field Settings, you can increase that to like 500 if you want. There you go. Email is Taha at Prompt Advisors, and address, or what other information that I want? It didn't even ask me for this information. Okay, well, let's just put this and see what it comes back with. Could you please provide the address? Cool. So let's do 123 Main Street. Perfect, so it says our team will reach out. Now, once again, if I've done my job correctly, I should see something come up. I just got a brand new email that says a new lead. Kind of cool, right? And that's essentially the entire agent. If you want to put this on somebody's website, and obviously you can customize this, you can change the colors, you can change whatever, change the logos. But now if you really want to, press Save and Apply and click on Embed. You now have a code to actually embed this into any website like that. Obviously this took a lot longer because I was explaining what I'm doing at the same time. But once you get the hang of it, you can knock out like 5, 10 of these a day and get back to what actually matters when you're starting an agency, which is getting more clients and sales and marketing. With that in mind, thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions or you have ways to improve this that you want me to make a video on, please reach out. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. And if you want to learn about that sort of file search API thing, feel free to click one of the videos here.